thing already
Things are
exists.
allowed to change, but they're changing within the union specific right of way.
But one of those elements was adjacent properties. Having no significant change, which gives you the ability to have that categorical exclusion.
There are a variety of things that the Federal Transit Administration looks at. I can't speak for them. I'm not part of the Federal Transit Administration. But there are specific regulations and rules that they look at. They will review the documents for those regulations and make a determination.
And so the best approach for all of us to address our concerns, ideally collectively for piece would be to collect that, formalize it, and then appeal to the FDA about this categorical exclusion.
Well, it's important for you to provide it to us so that we understand those issues, but you are welcome to provide it to the FDA at the same time. But we do want to get that feedback because we can't make the project a better project without understanding what.
Where is it at in the environmental review with the FDA? Obviously submitted all your documentation, your studies, right?
So we had submitted some materials to the FDA for their review, but we aren't finalizing any documentation until we are able to collect this input. It's very important that we get the public input before we finalize that material.
Right, but there's the studies that have been submitted, right?
There are draft materials that are provided to the FDA.
Back to not studies. I just want to clarify.
Sure.
Have there, because I know there were noise studies, vibration studies, maybe water studies, I don't know. But have those been submitted?
So they are draft studies that we prepare on behalf of the Federal
Yeah,
Transit
we have an expert.
Administration. So they have to review them and make sure that they're comfortable with those documentation before they can define them.
So draft, so not finalized reports or drafts have been sent to the FDA. When do you anticipate final drafts and
So we need to receive the feedback that we're getting tonight. We need to document that. We need to respond to it. We need to incorporate that into the reports before we submit it back to the FDA. They will do another review and make sure that they're comfortable with the materials before they define it.
So then what's the timeline on that? When does that get sent and when do you anticipate the FDA to give you the response? Just so that we.
So again, I can't speak for the Federal Transit Administration.
But you have a timeline.
We're hoping
You
to
have a
wrap up the
timeline.
environmental review process roughly this year so that the design team can get into final design, make progress on a lot of the questions that you're seeking responses to, and we can have more meaningful outreach and follow-up with you about some of these sort of open issues, let's say.
And so we don't repeat ourselves, what information do we have the right to have access to regarding any kind of plan issues, concerns? Because I think it makes a lot of sense for us to do it collectively versus, 5 different people hiring 5 different attorneys to address the same sound issue, let's say.
So I don't think we're authorized to speak about legal issues.
Oh,
here. That's really outside of my
concerns,
purview.
are environmental concerns, let's say. Will we have the ability to access, maybe an easier way to put it is through FOIA or whatever else, what information is available at what stage. So the environmental studies, at what stage are those publicly available for FOIA or whatever?
I'll be clear, I sent them away, just so everyone knows. It
For-
was, they asked for an extension.
And for the scope, for what scope?
For what we're talking about, the reports.
So you would have to consult with FDA about what we're allowed to release via FOIA. I don't even know the answer to that question, honestly. We would post everything once it's approved and once FDA allows us to post it. So I think.
So will we be able to see and review that before that process? So we can submit, we don't want you to submit our concerns for us. We would like to submit our concerns to that entity, or at least review what their response is.
And not just have it go from a draft to final, like speak it through, like I kind of feel like, could happen, if we don't know how to access it.
If FDA, like, if their considerations that they get to account, but if it's approved, we didn't have meaningful input to actually affect change. And ideally avoid, litigation, things of that nature. Obviously, we're collaborating at the end of the day.
I think you guys can relay that to FDA, and we can also sort of give you that after tonight's meeting. But essentially, it's their process, so
Yeah.
So can we get the name and email of the contact, the FTA?
Sure.
Is it Anthony Tripp?
That's his first name. I believe that we sent you the contact information.
I can share that with anybody if we're staying in contact on here today.
I got a concern about the current landscape maintenance, primarily along Ravenswood going southbound. I became a new property owner in that block, and
Which
the-
block?
Ravenswood, Cornelia.
Cornelia.
Oh, Cornelia.
So along Ravenswood going southbound, the shrubs, the plants and shrubs are already extending to the street, which are causing a driving hazard, and it's going to start really damaging property like cars. I drive a truck, and it is every time like really like cutting it close to get between the branches and the cars that are parked already. So I know that this is meant for the current development, but the current, upcoming proposed development, but the current property, the current landscape needs to be maintained. So that's one of my biggest concerns right now.
So that's an area of property that's not owned by the railroad. That's Parkway.
But isn't it usually maintained by the owner of the property in the adjacent to the parkway?
I don't have a.
As a property owner-
There's an active garden in that area.
Actually, in
Not
the
in that
area
area. I have
he's speaking to,
pictures.
that's owned by Union Pacific, that is Union Pacific property, it's come out of the fence line after they came through with an excavator and raised all of the
Yeah,
shrubs.
north of Roscoe.
Yeah, but this is on the
That's
westbound
exactly
side.
what he's speaking
This
to.
is on the
Yeah, so
Would you
westbound
please
side.
send us an email with the specific address or some specific address, last pictures?
Yeah, you got both UP and Metra have
Your response?
pictures. Yeah.
They bucked it up to UP, who said it was general maintenance. I think there was no response to UP saying, when will you come clean some of this up? It's a hazard, again, with like 8 pictures and nothing. So if you're sensing that there are people who are upset and nervous about the project that's ahead, it's because we've had all of this foreshadowing already. We've had to dig for information. We're staring at dead trees on a daily basis, haphazardly in the road, over a playground over there near Addison. Please drive by some of these things as you leave today.
It's a serious hazard.
Yeah, no, thanks for the feedback. Let's make sure that gets on right as possible.
I'll follow up with somebody afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah. How many noise analyses were completed along the project path, and where were they conducted? There's a slide in there in that room that's either extremely confusing or, at its worst, just incredibly wrong. So I'm just trying to gather.
You mean exist or monitoring location
Yeah.
or noise
Yes.
measurements
Yes.
that
Exactly.
were
Where
taken along
was
the
that data collected in regard to the decibel level along the path?
I guess where and when.
The noise analysis was conducted in the summer of 2021.
COVID time, when there were no trains.
And
See,
time
the-
of day.
So there's a data point on that chart in that room that says homes south of Diversity, and it says 6 south of Diversity Parkway, 6 dwellings. The development I'm in has 12 dwellings south of Diversity that are impacted, so I'm just a little confused on the data set being represented there versus what's actually impacted.
So as Kay noted, the study was conducted in 2021.
But these houses were built in 1998, so I mean, there hasn't been 6 homes built then making that number inaccurate since that point. So I'm just trying to wrap my arms around what's wrong versus what's confusing.
So that's the Wolcott Road section?
Yes.
There are 12 that have their entrances on the west side.
Correct. Facing the tracks.
Facing the track.
South of Diversity. Yep, so double the number that's represented on that chart.
Yeah, the number of homes was wrong.
Yeah, that's
Yep. So
good feedback, and we will definitely take it.
Very close, even down a little bit.
We identified individual residences based on roof lines. It appeared that there are 6, because there are 2 units sharing one roof line in the townhouses.
incorrect.
So that is very good feedback. We will make sure that we address them.
But to his point, when was the survey, when was the house done?
The noise measurements were done in summer of 2021.
Specifically at those locations?
So it was done throughout the corridor. We had multiple measurement locations in order to calibrate a model. That model was then used to identify what the noise levels are today and what they would be in the future with the shift and track both vertically and horizontally.
Is it studying the change as it is today, meaning the current traffic flow of the trains, and the decibel amount? They're saying the decibel amount minimal. So what did you say? It's already
Now you're
changed,
running more
but
cars.
you look at the overall, like
More
what it is that's in aggregate. Is that the two different things? The percentage change, very small, but at the end of the day, if you're like threshold where quality of life goes down, or sound walls obviously with light. The point of the question being is how can we protect ourselves to have these issues that affect our quality of life? And how do we protect ourselves beyond just a comment and hopes that things go well?
I think the diesel that's going to be coming closer to us with all these more trains. The diesel smells now. I can't imagine it being any closer to our homes. And have you tried to want to do anything to test that? And how about how that's going to affect our lives and our world and our children? I mean, if diesel.
Can you tell us just why are these tracks moving 20 or so feet further west?
So we've got a lot of questions, and then this is one reason why, and I apologize that the forum was not desirable for all the members in the team. This is one of the reasons why we did the open house forum, so we can address lots of different questions, specific issues. We're trying to do so now, so I hope that we're able to do so. In terms of why the tracks have to shift, we have a whole section over here that talks a little bit about the staging. We looked at a lot of different alternatives for how the project could be built. And at the end of the day, in order to maintain service that serves people throughout the entire region of Chicago on this corridor, 2 tracks need to be maintained. We looked at a single track option, but we weren't able to make the service work without it having no opportunity for
But
recovery.
at Peterson and Ridge, you're doing single track operation for that.
there are
And you're gonna do it down in Harvey as well.
Short-term
So-
single tracks during the middle of the day is possible. But
So
doing
why
it
can't you do
long-term-
that? You're proposing to replace bridges as permits roll in, so why couldn't we do short single tracks as permits roll in and replace bridges?
So when we look at
And
replacing.
you're gonna close down Ravenswood anyways for this project.
I
so-
understand there are lots of questions. I'm
Yeah,
trying to answer
I'm just
one at
trying
a time.
to, roll that into the whole bridge.
No, and again, we've gotten a lot of questions. If I don't get to them, it's because we keep getting peppered on this, so I apologize.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
it's our-
as we look at rolling in bridges, it can't be done within one day. It takes multiple days.
Yeah.
And so,
That Benish did it down at Torrance Avenue in 127th, a major freight bridge, they did it over a weekend. So I mean, it's considered the standard of innovation to use accelerated bridge construction to modernize our infrastructure. So why are you choosing the most antiquated, most inefficient model?
I will
To
not.
modernize our bridges.
I do not believe it's inefficient. It's very nice to be able to build.
But
bridges
according to the
outside
federal
existing
government, it is the
But
most
I'll let our
inefficient.
design team talk a little bit about what we did to look at accelerated bridge design, because we did look at that in detail multiple
But the
times.
federal government disagrees with it.
No, thank you. If you want to go ahead and answer.
One of the advantages that they had down on that Torrance Avenue and 130th project, is they had the available real estate adjacent to the Ford plant to construct that new bridge.
Right.
So in order to roll it in, we need to build the new bridge adjacent to the existing one. And there's a lot of these homes and buildings directly adjacent to these
You
bridges.
can build it off-site, they do it off-site lots of places. The federal website actually discusses that.
Right, and you're talking about a
detail.
different topic, well, we can touch on that.
Okay.
But the current, what you're asking about is rolling the bridge in, we have to build it next to the existing bridges where there's existing homes.
Actually, Ravenswood, there are no homes directly there, you could shut down Ravenswood, it would not impact it.
So let's
So you
talk
could do it
about
right there.
diversity. Let's talk about diversity. That's a big impact.
But you're gonna have to shut down diversity anyway.
I'm not there yet. So these new bridges are longer than the existing ones.
Of course.
We can't fit the new bridges adjacent to the existing ones without impacting those homes. The homes and buildings are in the way, right? So we couldn't actually construct them directly adjacent to the bridge to slide it over.
Right.
Right,
So you could do it off-site, and then you shut that down instead of shutting it down for weeks at a time like you did with normal.
So you're referring to the self-propelled non-dual transporters, the SDMTs? We would need to drive the same bridge in its current orientation along the city streets from whatever location it's constructed. I don't know if there is an open lot nearby.
You couldn't do that at night. I mean, they did it down on the south side, and that was a freight bridge. And that was, they got an architectural award. That was, you know, an international architectural award. So I mean, I would think that a piddly bridge for a commuter, you know, north-south train would pale in comparison to that.
Yeah, again, it's the available space that we have to maneuver that on city streets. As you can imagine.
But those were